G'day guys and welcome to a quick preview for Rosehill on Saturday. I believe it's the 1st of July. Just a few things to touch on first, which is not normal for this kind of thing. One to follow who I've been associated with for the last couple of years have announced this week that they no longer are going to carry products from outside people. So from this week, my sort of things that I've provided through them won't be available. It does coincide, luckily, with a website that I've been working on nearly being ready. It's pretty close, but just touching up a few things, and just thought I'd let you know that anyone who wants to just have a free trial of that for a month, go to my website. It's racingwatch.com.au. Sign up through the subscription packages, and it's free. So this Racing Watch Welcome Package, completely free to sign up to. All you have to do is fill in the details, send them through, and you'll get a taste of what hopefully is a new product that I'm put together. So I'll talk about that later. But that's how you do it anyway. It's not too difficult. Just go to the site and sign up. Getting back to the main thing, Rosehill Saturday. So 3 metre rail. Looks like we'll end up with about a soft 5. Weather looks pretty good. Usually the 3 metre rail's not too dissimilar to the true rail, so inside getting a 1 or 2 off in the straight probably be ideal. The fence probably won't be too bad considering the weather's been good, but just stalking and getting off that fence in the early part of the straight and getting 1 or 2 off is going to make you difficult to beat. There's some big fields, so there should be some good pressure and some good open races. First race of the day is probably not one of those when it comes to being open. 2 runners dominate betting in Hawaii and Heliosphere. Tactics are probably the main key to this race. Obviously, Hawaii came out of that race last start where it was ridden, I'm not going to say poorly, but it was strange tactics which probably cost it the race, restraining out of the race early and closing late against a really soft tempo. It is interesting that it sort of went into that race, comes now into a soft 13.50 up to 14 with blinkers on. What they do, whether it's might still be a bit fresh and end up leading, or whether they try and take a sit with the blinkers on, I'm not really sure. It's not a race that really has a natural leader involved. I think Mad Pirate and Uncle Rodriguez are not fast horses, so it will be interesting to see what happens. Condor will probably push forward with that run under its belt. Heliosphere is an interesting one. It obviously went to the front last start over 1600, which I'm not sure was probably what they were looking to do. Did race a bit fiercely there. Now has 19 days between runs back in distance and an outside gate. So the tactics on Heliosphere are probably the most interesting point of the race, obviously with Hawaii as well. Condor obviously ran well on debut and can improve and does look a winning chance. And the other horse that I thought was interesting was the Billy Prain horse in Victory in Paris that was a strong winner. Possibly got to the best part of the track, but jumped in trip there and can improve again behind a slow tempo. So he went 12 to 14 at second start in a race and finished off nicely there. Heliosphere obviously went 14-16 back to 14. That's interesting as well with the 19 days before. It comes out of that really strong Kementari race. It's probably... It's a tough one. I'm not too keen to take 280 about it, that's for sure. But if I had to back one of them, it'd be it. Or had to have one to win anyway. Hawaii around the 250 mark's a similar situation. It's obviously a decent enough horse, going well. Just not super confident in it, and not that confident in Condor improving or Victory in Paris at the prices they are to really want to get involved. So it's not a race that really excites from a betting perspective, but definitely an interesting clash between Hawaii and Heliosphere, and Condo and the rest sitting just behind them in the market and probably still winning chances. Race 2. Another interesting tactical battle here. Just Dreaming's raced really well in fast tempo races its last couple of starts. it actually hasn't gone as well off slow tempos, which is a little bit interesting. It won off a fast tempo second up at Wyong when it led and then was headed come back and then won. It then was beaten in a slow tempo race or a slightly soft tempo race in Scone, even though it ran well, a little bit one-paced. Then it came out in the 2 starts back it was not that slower tempo, but it jumped in trip. And then last up back in distance on a fast tempo was when it's run clearly its best race by a long way. So it will be interesting to see the tactics here. I think if they try and stack up, it could be a problem for Just Dreaming. I think there's probably some horses in this race that could outsprint it. There is a tempo problem. The Lope looks like the only real pressure, and it's drawn inside it, so they could end up 1-2, and I can't see Just Dreaming really wanting to pressure from outside the leader, so it's an interesting race from that point of view. I could see Insensata sitting right behind them, holding a position probably third the fence here, without too much trouble, and any luck at all off that slow tempo, it can be out sprinting the other two for mine. Careless Choice could lob one out, one back if it stays off the fence, which I'd be trying to do if I was it. It could be a dangerous horse with the apprentice Jamie Innes aboard. If it tracks Just Dreaming everywhere, it could be an interesting runner. I'd probably rather have something small on those two than chime into Just Dreaming, and Lope to Lope's actually probably the best price of a lot of them around the $9.50 mark, coming off a really strong win first up and some strong efforts last time, drops in weight, and it'll be fitter, and I definitely don't see 1,500 as a problem. And just another little concern that he's in the similar boat to Just Dreaming and could be a little bit vulnerable, but you're getting $9.50 about it compared to the $4.20 Just Dreaming. So probably betting around Just Dreaming here, which done the last 2 starts and it's bit me in the bum, but it's probably too late to chime into it now for mine, considering it does look vulnerable here with a slow tempo. So for me, Insensata will need a little bit of luck, probably backing it. I'd actually thinking that if there is no luck for Insensata and Lope gets a soft lead, it could be the one at $9.50 to have something on if it can skip a little bit. And then Careless Choice, I probably wouldn't have it going around a loser, but I'm definitely not going to be getting too excited about it. I think it's probably not an apprentice's horse. It's probably a senior rider's horse to get the best out of it, and it has had a long prep. So backing Insensata, backing Lope to Lope for a smaller result, and saving on Careless Choice in race 2. It does look a betting race. Race 3. 1900 metres. Another race with no clear cut pace other than probably Walk the Streets, who finally gets out to a trip that we want to see her at. She was obviously entered in a longer race a few weeks ago, and didn't get there due to a heavy track. I think she can improve. She probably did have her chance to a certain degree last start with just an even tempo and back to it. I just think that 1550 is probably not her go. I think 1900 is much better for Walk the Streets and does look a soft leader here and will run you a heck of a race. It's currently around the $7.50 mark. I think that's pretty good odds for a horse of its quality, getting up to its right trip for the first time this prep. Fournette was obviously enormous last start, beating it, race wide throughout. The tempo is pretty solid, so it's done a lot of work and stuck its neck out. Draws 3 here, only got the 52 kilos on its back, actually meets Walk the Streets better at the weights, but does lose the senior rider, which is a bit of an issue because she does look a bit of a handful, but she's obviously got good ability and should get the right run here from 3 this time. Domed is an interesting horse that would have been a tragedy beaten last start, but comes from very different form lines and now has to jump in quality. I'm concerned about that, and I'm concerned about the price here. The one good thing about her is she is a winner over 1900, where a lot of these horses are stepping up in trip to this trip for the first time, either this preparation or ever. But I just want to be a little bit wary of her, considering how pace assisted she was last start in a much softer race. Van Dancer is a tough type fitter and can improve. I thought I'll Fly Away's been good in Brisbane, but probably is in a similar position here where it gets back. The 1900 is obviously a positive, but probably the one I want to bet around considering its favourite. I think Van Dancer's fair enough odds around the $8 mark. It has got the big weight though, and I'm probably leaning towards the fillies in Fournet and Walk the Streets to be my positive results here. Another race where I might end up backing 3 runners, but definitely making Walk the Streets my best result around the 750 mark. Fournet 650 is probably borderline to the best odds you're going to get, and then the $8 is a saver for Van Dancer, but making Walk the Streets and Fournet positive results in race 4. Race 5, sorry, race 3. Race 4 is a diabolical highway. Could probably find more negatives about runners than positives, which is an issue. There's nothing really ideally set up. Last try wins out to 1800 is a bit of a query. It's not the most winningest horse. It doesn't stick its neck out. It is 4 weeks between runs, a few gear changes, and a horse I can't really find. I think it's around the $7.50, $8 marks, pretty short for it. Barbas won really short price last start. Obviously gets Bowman on, draws a gate, but doesn't look to be going that well for mine. In all honesty, 1800 might suit it. It might be one paced, and looking for this trip, I'm not entirely sure, but cannot find it at the $6 mark. Call the Captain is an interesting horse, but it is deep into a preparation, long first preparation. It had a 59-day break only. Other than that, it's sort of been up since January, February this year. Coming off a failure last start, where it led in slow time on the fence over a mile at Ipswich. You go back 2 runs ago at Rosehill, and its run's probably competitive enough to put it in the finish here. So if you give that last run, it's around the $14 mark, you could probably entertain it. Our Cubana was a good win last start at Tamworth, where it came up the wrong part of the track and stuck its neck out. Now rises quickly to 1800 metres. And the soft track's obviously also a query as well, even though it shouldn't be too bad. That's probably the least of its worries. Gate 17 with Travis Wolfgram on top. There's a few queries against it, but it can definitely win. Mr. Marmalade stepping out to 1800 metres is just a mystery for mine. I'm not sure what they've been trying to do with this horse. Its whole preparation's pretty crazy. It's definitely got the quality to win a race of this nature, but it's just a strange setup, and I just can't really entertain it too much. Lordie's the horse that's definitely been looking to get out to this trip. It's now had the four runs back and jumping 300, but that should be solid. It's had the solid prep and really does look the one that you would say will run well. It should roll forward from that 16 gate with 53.5 on its back and run a positive race. It's a Lottery's having a really good prep, racing well, hard fit. Won over 2,000 last start, which, again, there's only 2 runners back in distance here. It's one of them, and it's coming off a much better run than the other horse, so you entertain it around the $18 mark. And Rush of Blood's a decent roughie here for mine. Also, it's had a short break between runs last start, 52 days, and dropped back in distance, and its run was good leading there, and not a great race, but totally a forgive run. It'll probably race up on the speedish here from a wide gate. It does look like there's a bit of pressure in this race and should be truly run. So that should play in the hands to the fitter runners that have got better distance and better distance figures. It's a Fate Accomplishment. It's the only other horse you probably can look at. It does look a really one-pace type that will be suited by a fastish tempo. It does draw a nice gate. Gets to tongue tie, which could explain a bit of a shock defeat last start when it was a short price favourite, but that was a slow tempo and it did whack away okay. It's an improver, but it's a funny little jockey change as well. So there's not a race I can be really too excited about. Just looking down the page for value, I can entertain Call the Captain at $15, $14. It's a fair Fate Accomplishment. $12 is not ridiculous. $10 is probably short enough. Our Cubana probably want better. 25 to 1 Rush of Blood's definitely okay. $5.50 Oh Lordy's about as tight as you probably want to be entertaining taking it. $18 It's a Lottery is definitely a good price. And probably the rest you don't really want to look at unless they get runs. Fast Quest $51 is definitely a big price off its run last start at Cessnock. It's only had a couple of starts with the new stable and going well. $31 Big Ben the Clock looks value as well. I definitely want to take a big price to be playing here. I can't see anything that's going to be dominant, especially anything that's in the market. There does look some serious risks about those in the market, and I could definitely bet around them. Race 5, 2400 metre Winter Cup. Gallic Chieftain, definitely the obvious. Comes off a strong enough win last start, but did have a few things in its favour. Trained by Darren Weir. It's obviously a positive. 4 weeks between runs, not a problem for this stable. It was a 2250 metre winner at Morford for the last preparation in a strong enough race for this sort of grade. Has decent form overseas, but obviously Darren Weir has a habit of taking them to another level. It does look to be building in its preparation, so the 400 metre jump with 4 weeks would be a problem for me usually, but it's the only real reservation here. It does look the one on the up and hard to beat. Montauk comes up second favourite. It's hard to find him in most races. He just tends to find trouble. He draws a little bit awkwardly here and may give these a start, and he's got to run out of 2400 metres here. Stablemate Soviet Courage is back to 2400 at 21 days from the 32. It looks a possible improver, but you can't have too much confidence in it. Heraldo Jr. was a nice little run last start down the outside against the pattern and battled on well. Allegrio had no luck last start, and Destiny's Kiss is the other one worth mentioning. $10 is probably solid enough price, but it carries the 61 here, so it's got to give Gallic Chieftain 7.5 kilos. I do like what they did last start, dropping it back to the mile last time and giving it a bit of a barrier trial, Destiny's Kiss, and it will be suited by the conditions on Saturday, a bit of sting out of the ground, and probably again it's another one that'll be back well towards last, which is another issue, giving so much weight to a decent enough horse in Gallic Chieftain. So if I was having a bet, it'd be Gallic Chieftain, but again, $2.50 in a 2400 metre race doesn't excite me too much, especially with the 28 days and rising in trip. Not a very exciting race. Race 6. Early favourites, Upscale Memes, Fickle Folly. Can't really understand why Fickle Folly's that hard in the market. It's coming out of a race last start where it controlled the tempo. They did run good time there, but it was beaten quite comfortably. I know that Sir Plush would be a short price favourite if it was in this race. There's no doubt about that. It's a short price favourite later in the day in what looks a probably deeper and harder race. So that's a good form reference. I'm just concerned about how it maps here. It's definitely going to have to work. I don't really want it in a trailing position. It's not the horse that really strikes me as one that wants to run on. It just wants to lead and bowl, and that's a big query here. I can't see it getting past the likes of Memes early in the race, and if it does, it's going to have to work, and it's got pressure outside it as well that wants to take, so it could easily be forced into a trailing position. Not a horse I want to find. Memes could lead and kick, but it's going to have to work from that inside gate this time, you would have to think. Definitely a good effort controlling the tempo evenly throughout last start and running well. I think Magic Alibi that ran well the other day is not suited out to the 1200 so quickly, even though it draws us off gate. I can see it looming and peaking again. Upscale's the one that definitely looks ready. Drying track's a big positive and looks to find the right spot with Bowman just behind the speed somewhere. Pioneering can improve but loses the senior rider, and where does it get to from the gate? And Heady Heights is the other one that's interesting. It looks like it's trialled up well, has a really good fresh record, probably sit midfield in a similar position to Upscale, possibly on its back, and they could be the swoopers, which, not the sort of horses you usually want to look for in a race of this nature. But that 1200 just looks to take the sting out of a few that are 1100 metre types. And one I definitely have left out is Nudie Rudy, who looks to get the right run of all of them, looks to lob right in the back of the speed and could be just smoking its pipe there and waiting for a gap and dangerous late. So three main winning chances for me that I could entertain backing. I think Upscale's probably around its right price at $5. It's not great value, but right there. Heady Heights 850 looks solid enough odds. And Nudie Rudy at the $12 is the other horse I think is looking like a value opportunity in what looks a tough race, but I can see a few horses just looking for gaps late and bursting through, with horses like Memes and Fickle Folly possibly softened up and a little bit vulnerable late. Race 7. This is a weird race. Okay. Good speed. Let's talk about the speed first. Good speed from Girl Sunday coming across the Monstar, kicking up in distance. It probably rolls to the front, I would imagine, unless Girl Sunday presses. Big query, obviously, over the Monstar running 13.50, and I'm not sure that Girl Sunday is absolutely flying, so I'm looking for something to run on a touch here. Preferably drawn just in behind, which is to settling behind, which is an issue because Shiraz is probably the horse that fits that bill, but I'm not sure it's absolutely airborne. It still lobs in the right position, and $8 looks fair enough price off the back of two 1400 or 14 or 13.50 should be ready to go now. Slightly Sweet definitely was a good effort last start. Bit of a gap between runs coming into this of 28 days, and that does look a little issue. But around the 20 to 1 mark, can't knock it even with the little rider change. Just looks to get the right run. So Bacchus obviously will probably be midfield from the middle gate and will run well. There's no doubt about that. Zinzan Eddie was a nice little run last start and looks a knockout chance. Invincible Knight was enormous with a huge weight. Absolutely flying. Just draws a horror gate of 13 here and likely to have to go back and run on, which could be difficult running past some quality horses here. And then we've got Extensible, Gold Symphony. There's just a number of chances here in that middle bracket that can all win. It's just a matter of trying to find the right one. I don't think there's a lot between them. It's going to be more about tactics and who gets the right drag into the race. Shiraz looks to fit that bill most. Possibly Sir Bacchus gets the next best run of the favoured runners. I think 380 is short enough for him, but Slightly Sweet and Zinzan Eddie, Invincible Knight are the ones that represent a bit more value for mine. If Invincible Knight gets a 3-wide trail into it and they tend to run along a bit, it can definitely be right there in the finish. I think it's a horse still on the up, and its win the other day was dominant, even though it was a much easier grade. It was just pretty arrogant. It was against a few things, the track, and few things were against it, and it did the job easily. Zinzan Eddie's another one at 40s that could roll forward into a much more prominent position out to this trip and can run well. I know I'm going to play small in the race and probably look for value and just hope to strike a result at big odds, rather than playing too close to the market with horses that look marginally priced currently. Race 8, and this map might lie a bit here. You've got two horses resuming that are drawn over, better over further and faster over further, or fast over further. They may struggle to cross these inside runners here, but that does look pressure, and it does look like there'll be a 3 and 4 wide line, so I don't think it's too big a disadvantage to be drawn a little bit wide here if you're going to get back. I think the ones sort of with the inside middle draws may struggle a bit because there could be lines of 3 and 4 here, which could cause problems for those drawn a little awkwardly. So Plush repeats that win last start with clear running. I think it'd just win. That win was career best by a long way, and it's not easy to build off those runs, and you do have to be a little wary of that. But anything like that, it's going to be in the finish. Caland is an interesting horse that does profile to sit just in behind the speed. Has struggled a touch recently, 21 days off, back 100 metres, and he does draw very well, as I said. I thought that Highly Geared was a horse that if it tried to lead and run these along, could run a really strong race at 25 to 1. I think if you give that last run, it's right in this 2 starts back that times, and everything was good about its effort. I think it's a much better leader than it is a chaser. And, it does look to get the opportunity to probably lead and run them along a bit here if desired. Really strong trials from Oxford Poet Classic Uniform and Tox Striker. I don't think any of them are ideally placed here first up, but no surprise to see any of them in the finish. They're quality gallopers that have all trialled strongly. But for me, I think Surplus is the one to beat, but I might mess around with Cornellas with Surplus highly geared. And then Classic Uniform and Oxford Poet at big odds I want to throw in. I just really think that those runners can run well at big odds. Gun to my head, I'm having something on highly geared each way as my only bet. But Surplus does look extremely well placed and hard to beat. $2.20 is obviously well found. Last race and another competitive race to finish the day. I think Kingsguard will probably find the front here and definitely can improve. I hope this is correct and Magical Stance presses forward. I do think its run was solid last start. It might have looked a little bit plain to the eye, but I think that was a harder race than this and it can improve. Again, only second up there. Obsidian was obviously fresh in that race and ran up and can win, but draws to need luck at the right time, which can be perfect at Rosehill, but obviously it comes or goes, that luck, and $13 is probably fair enough. Reneg's the horse that definitely was very arrogant last start. Very arrogant, obviously, in Wednesday grade. But he's back and wide here. He's had no luck. It all runs his preparation, basically. You can see that he kind of half gets a trail into it before having to come widest. And I just really like this last 100 metres or so where he's stronger than the rest of them comfortably. He's obviously got a few quirks, the horse. Just that last bit there where he surges when he finally gets onto his right leg and balances up. Not going to be an easy ride for Ty Anglin, but I think he's probably the horse to beat in the race. $6.50 okay. I don't mind that price. Pick me up. He's in the betting. I can't have it. I thought it's been given just perfect rides its last couple and continues up in distance, which I'm not a big fan of. Karzoff's interesting horse. So it's gone 16-18 back to 15 here. Run well at 16-18. Had its chance last start, beaten by a horse dominantly late who came out and was dominant again over further. Time was only okay last start and it had a perfect run. All reports say it's only a pretty slight horse and needs to improve a touch to be winning this, and $3 is very short for mine. It'll have its like is, but there'll have its fans, but I'm not too sure that it'll be starting that short. It'll probably get out. As I said, Kingsguard can find the lead here, I think, and can improve. I think $14 about it's probably over the odds. King Viv's come up in here with good form, but 53 days plus 200, even though it's trialled. I want to be against it, and I think Spleed Hero is the one that's dead set flying. Back in trip's okay for it, and just needs a bit of luck with the apprentice on from that soft gate. Could end up backing on the inside a touch, but I can see it being extra strong late and hard to beat, and I think $13 it is huge odds. So for me, Magical Stance, definitely very interesting. Obsidian, I might want to see one more from it. Reneged is short enough, but can definitely win. Kingsguard's a big improver, and Speed Hero is the other one that I'm definitely going to be on. So the two that I definitely want to be on here are $14 Kingsguard, $13 Speed Hero especially. I won't be letting Magical Stance go around a loser at 13, and maybe Reneged I chop out because I just don't want to be seeing it coming down the outside and going straight, because I think it's probably the horse with the most talent here, even though it has a few quirks. So hopefully I've identified a few things there. I'll come back with a few updates later in the week, and don't forget to sign up for the free month. Obviously no obligation there, so if you don't like what you see, or just come along and have a look. You don't have to follow anything really, just see what we do, and if you like it, you can continue it on. If not, no harm done. So thanks guys, and good luck. Talk to you later in the week. Thank you.